Hey guys, I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another video. And today I'm going to be talking about Wonka. I'm very conflicted about this movie, guys. I'm just going to really be honest with you. I didn't have so much high expectations for this film. And I think some of those expectations were met. But I did try to like a lot of the bits of this movie. But I just think overall it was just a little bit of a sobering experience for me. So I want to just talk about this movie, what I thought was really some of the good points I could really take from this film. Um, First of all, I would say the musical score was actually very, very good. Um, I think a lot of the movies, Euphoria and Charisma, was definitely done by the musical score. It it was actually pretty good. So there were some cheerful moments in some of the music. They fitted it in for the characters pretty well. And I think that's definitely one thing I could really praise with this film. And some of the acting did actually work very well. So I will say Timothy Chalamet's character, I think he does try really hard to portray the Wonka character. I think his singing was good, but I just felt really that he just didn't really suit the role as Wonka. I feel there's probably that youthful look in him that doesn't make it right, but I don't know. It's very very hard for me to look at his performance in any way with any sort of fault. I mean, his singing was good. His acting, I think, was fine for what it was. Although there were some aspects of the performance I would probably prefer to be better. So I think that's one thing I would look at. Some of the acting performances I think were good, and I'll give real praise for is Hugh Grant. I think he was actually the one that actually brought the charisma of this movie up. I thought his acting as the Oompa Loompas was actually really good. There was a lot of it did actually put some smile on my face actually seeing him as the Oompa Loompa in this movie to actually sort of bring things up, and it definitely his musical score was actually also really good as well. So I think those are some of the things I could really praise for this movie as part of his acting and his musical score. Now, some of the things I'm really not so sure or very confident about this film is really its writing. First of all, I think the movie did have a story to try and use Willy Wonka as the chocolate inventor, and he wanted to use his chocolate to really try and be shared to everyone after his late mother passed away. So basically, that's the real idea of the premise of this film, but it never really felt that really they really made that the case. So one of the things in this movie is they do have a character in this movie. So they have a character called Noodle, and I think she takes over the movie far too much to make Wonka's character very uninteresting. So most of the time you're just very distracted by her character, and they try and make her kind of the subject in this movie at times, to think that she has to have the role and we have to kind of focus on her. And they had to try and use her as the image of Wonka because she also had a late mother and all that stuff. And she doesn't know who her mother is and how she was brought into this world. So there's also those sort of elements as well with this film that they kind of distract away from the main title of this movie, which I really do question the decisions of that. So those are the other things I will say that are a bit of a problem. And I think really to criticize this movie's story is pretty hard to say, because I think the narrative of this movie doesn't stay consistent to its main story to try and develop characters very well. So there are a few characters in this movie that don't really get much of the development. So they have three businessmen in this movie that are basically trying to use Wonka's chocolates to try and capitalize on it for their own business and their own profits, but somehow they don't really sort of develop their story very much, and that doesn't really sort of lead to anything that makes their characters interesting. So I couldn't even remember their names or even cared about them because there wasn't really so much in the development aspect of what they brought to this role. And also really the other characters. So they had like some characters in some laundrette room, and they had a good song which was like about scrubbing and stuff, but again, there was just nothing really interesting for them to bring to this movie. I mean, they were just a band of friends that Wonka made when he was dropped off there, and they try and help him to try and get his chocolates and to basically get his chocolates shared around the world and try and get the people to like his chocolates and everything. And sometimes it didn't work out, but then they try and make it work. But again, there wasn't really anything that really sort of develops apart from that. So I think this movie does have faults. I do think sometimes its dialogue drags too much, where it doesn't really develop any parts of the story other than it's just being there just to pad time. And yeah, it just felt like everything just didn't really have so much of a purpose or direction in that matter. I don't know whether I'm odd for saying that, but it just drifted away from my interest, to be honest with you, because there wasn't so much times where it really chronologically develops in any way to make sense of this film. But anyways, overall this movie I'm very conflicted with. I really think there's good moments, and some moments they do really, really well. I do like the fact that they do make it a musical to really sort of bring that euphoria up and that charisma. But I do think that some decisions with his narrative and his characters and the writing does lead a lot of questions. So overall, if I had to rate Wonka, I'm gonna have to give it a 6 out of 10. I think it does more things that I could give credit for, but it doesn't. It kind of didn't leave me with the sort of feeling of this being a Wonka movie that I really expected it. I mean, some parts of it I kind of expected, but to be honest with you, I think there were some expectations that I kind of had before, pre-release of this film to watching it now, which I actually thought was very impressive. So Hugh Grant's acting was good. I also give credit to Rowan Atkinson as well. I mean, it's been a very long while seeing him on the screen, and he actually brings some enlightenment to this role to this film as well. Although his screen time didn't really feel a lot, it was very limited, but he definitely did bring something, and it did kind of make me back to my younger years when I used to see him on the screen. So it was good to see Rowan Atkinson back in this film. And Timothée Chalamet, he actually tries, but I just don't think the Wonka role suits him from my perspective. But anyways, that's it for my review and my thoughts on Wonka. Let me know what you guys think of this film. Agree to disagree. Please like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you want to dislike. And yeah, that's about it. See you later.